welcome back to the Intel Extreme Masters World Championships. We are back on the analysis desk before the next game of Unicorns of Love versus the Flash Wolves. And the first game was definitely a long one, but Flash Wolves generally looked like they were in control. What can Unicorns of Love change up here? Because Froskurin in the break, he was saying that draft was really good from them.
I know. I literally walked off. I was like, Shibi, that's an excellent draft. I mean, we were discussing a little bit. I do agree with you, Crumbs, that Renekton, you maybe look at the top lane. Vizicsacsi did what he could with it, but unfortunately, it is a champion that relies more so on the snowball. They didn't get it because they fell so far behind in the bottom lane, and it bled over the rest of the map. You know, immediately they're starting to rotate up into Vizicacci's lane. He's trying to find the correct lane assignment, missing out on that snowball potential. But the fact that he was still so relevant, despite how the game had gotten carried away or late game, speaks to his proficiency on that champion.
And the only issue that the Renekton brings is that the engages that the Unicorns tried to force were a little bit too overreaching, right? We saw at times the Abyssal Void just not connecting, or the Renekton just not being able to really seal the deal. And maybe a pick like Nautilus would have done the same thing, because the game really just revolved around the bottom lane. Both teams try to make moves towards there. And honestly, once the Ninja Tabi purchase from Poppy came in, there's no kill pressure between Renekton and Kha'Zix.
And I think we have to raise the question of Xerxes. I mean, he didn't have a standout performance that game. He definitely looked like he was struggling. Wasn't at the right side of the map when, you know, they were setting up that bot lane tier 1 dive. Does he need to be a little bit more, you know, in tune? We'll talk about it just throughout the duration of this Champions Select as we are as Flash Wolves versus Unicorns of Love go into their second game draft.
I'm really hesitant to always just place the blame on a single player and be like, you know, you're not on the right side on the map, so it's automatically the jungler's fault. When comms could have been like, we're totally fine, you don't need to be here.
Always blaming the jungle.
I said to you during the game, I was like, Flash Wolves, you can hear Flash Wolves, they are shouting pretty much 24/7. There's always a clear game plan, and Unicorns of Love looked moderately quiet. I mean, I don't know whether that indicates anything, and it's probably unfair to assume, as we have got a Varus first pick come through. That was a very, very quick ban phase, and it looks like Flash Wolves take the Varus off the cards.
And both teams kind of nullifying elements from the previous compositions. You have Tahm Kench being removed from the Unicorns, being a little bit too disruptive, and then Karma and Rengar being removed as well. Those two picks. The Karma, I think, was a little bit more impactful than the Rengar, because while we didn't see Rengar ultimates do a lot of work in the mid to late stages of the game, he did have a very crucial bola that connected onto Exile that really turned the tides for the Flash Wolves. While it might not have looked that way, it definitely was a very important moment.
Ultimately, though, it was because Tahm Kench had to gobble up his jungler
yeah,
instead of...
It was the move that Xerxes made, but Xerxes has been given Ivern. It's been banned against him almost consistently, and he is going to take that off the table. It was banned last game by Flash Wolves, and Xerxes says, okay, I'm going back to what I know.
I love Ivern. I don't think we've seen him used to his full extent at this tournament in particular. I believe the only team to play him so far is M19, but we've seen him hit the bench a couple of times. And the thing is I want Ivern to be paired with pushing lanes and to be a very disruptive and dominating jungler, and not just focus on his fast clear times internally.
Yet you already lose that pushing war, because Malzahar and Varus are the fastest pushing bottomless. You have mid lane of Syndra, which is insane for pushing. So this Ivern is going to have to be very careful to where he goes, because most likely those lanes are going to be pushing, and that will collapse into an invade. So the jungler from the Flash Wolves will be very on top of this, and if they can find Ivern and prevent him from prepping camps, then this pick will go down the drain.
And that's the scary thing with picking or rotating Ivern so early in your draft. When it's been mostly successful in the LPL, it actually comes out as a kind of a secondary rotation, because you're able to secure your priority pushing lanes and then kind of reveal your master plan. Because as soon as you see that Ivern, immediately Flash Wolves are like, okay, we need pushing priority everywhere.
Okay, so now Unicorns of Love are locked in the Zyra. Rumble's being locked out here. Could Flash Wolves just limit this mid lane champion pool to say that Syndra's always going to have the push advantage if they cut out a couple of champions here?
Well, there's a lot of picks that you can go into Syndra, right? We know that Corki can lane into Syndra. There's assassins like Zed and Echo that can go well into this. You can obviously just go Orianna, a completely safe route. But with what we see from the Unicorns going with that Zyra so far, it looks like they're going with a very defensive composition, which will prove very difficult to the likes of the Flash Wolves, because you have no way of reaching Syndra, Malzahar, or Varus, and you kind of want to reach these guys.
Which is why I feel like they're kind of leaning more towards the Corki unless it's taken away here, simply because he can stand on the other side of the Zyra ultimate and make use of all those defensive zoning tools that UoL have and reach that backline.
What would you like to see Unicorns of Love pick up top and mid here? Because that is what they've got left on their rotations.
I think you need a Maokai. The double tree combination is incredibly powerful.
Oh, they just ban it.
They ban it themselves, which questionable, but they obviously know what they're doing, right?
Maybe they want a pushing top laner. Maybe they want to completely kill the tanks and look for, I don't know, more of a carry-oriented.
I mean, I would have loved the Maokai here.
I agree with you.
I was leaning towards Maokai, and I'm just the host.
I mean, Vizicsacsi already threw down like the Renekton gauntlet, so maybe it just goes crazier from here. Maybe we're looking at Fiora.
And Flashwell's banning the control mages, perhaps asking for another Victor matchup from the Unicorns of Love, or maybe even saying, hey, do you feel like playing an assassin? And if they do, that assassin would be a very dangerous pick because it can go one or two ways, and Katarina.
Do it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
First Katarina of the tournament, locked in.
Okay, I have to talk about this. So Rookie in the LPL showed off this build where Katarina builds Gunblade, but she's also one of the few champions that will build Gunblade and Abyssal Scepter, and that is like, that literally only happens on like 2 champions in the game, Akali and Katarina. Now the cool thing is into Syndra, that means that you amplify your healing because you get 33% instantaneous healing off of the Gunblade. So like in your Ws at level 13, I did the math once, that Katarina can get like free like 400 health back if she uses all 3 daggers, and it makes it so hard to burst Syndra. It's such a cool combo.
Especially if you have the Ivern shield, which not only will give you that extra HP, but once he gets at Athene's Holy Grail, he will be healing Katarina on top of everything, which just makes this pick full-on exile. You had a great game last time. It's once again put the onus on the mid laner, similar to how we saw Febiven get that Zed last game yesterday. I think that this guy could pull it off here.
I have to run the question, though. You've got a Nautilus and a Malzahar. How difficult is it going to be for Katarina to find openings here?
Incredibly difficult, but it's Katarina. Like,
She's very fast.
You guys are excited about this. I can tell.
Like, this champion is quick.
You think I'm excited? Vedius is upstairs probably just losing it right now.
Anyone that doesn't know, Vedius practically one-tricked Katarina at one point.
Does he have a Katarina poster? Probably.
Probably.
He has a pillow, let's be honest.
Vedius has got a Katarina body pillow, 100%. I mean, I'm not even...
I didn't say that.
The final lock-in is going to be another Gangplank here, so it's going to be Vizicsacsi taking Gangplank to the top lane. How do you feel that this works in here for UoL?
My issue is that they don't have a lot of push priority in their lane, so it's going to be more of like a defensive, fast clear Ivern who's there to assist his team and be kind of that facilitator rather than really disrupting Karsa.
And with this, the lock-in of Gangplank, what is it that Unicorns... Because a lot of people will see this composition and say, what is it designed to do? I mean...
I think it just says, we think this game is going late. If it goes late, we're going to have a GP, and that can kill everything.
Guys, I need to get your predictions. Crumbs, you predicted Flashwells correctly last game.
I think I'm going to go with the Flashwells again for this one, honestly. The Katarina, while it looks cool, you have no tank here. You have the Ivern with no pushing lanes, and this is a pretty well-rounded comp from them.
I have to agree. I think Flashwells did get the stronger comp.
Change in tune, Froskirin. Change in tune. I'm going to hand over to our casters. It is going to be Vedius and Dracos. Take it away for our second game.
Shut up for a second because I think there's something that Vedius wants to talk about.
We got a Katarina onto Exile. It's going to be great. The last time we saw him play, they did lose to Splice, running a very similar composition, but against H2K, they were able to dominate. It did help that Exile were able to get a couple of early kills. I do remember them getting an early double buff against Splice in particular, but Exile has demonstrated time and time again that he is proficient on this champion. This composition is built around keeping that hyper carry alive, and we saw last game how excellent he was on that Victor, so I'm excited to see how well he will do against the legendary mid laner in Maple.
Coming in now to game 2. Red side for Unicorns of Love, it's blue side for the Flash Wolves, and everything is on the line for the Unicorns.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Winner here, winner here guarantees themselves a spot in the semifinals. Whereas you're on the brink of elimination if you're the Unicorns of Love and you lose out. You will get one more best of 3 to try to find a way to get to the final day at Spodek.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
Vedius,
Yes, mate.
the analyst desk brought up what I feel are some very valid concerns.
Yeah?
I think it's time for us to talk about pushing lanes.
We can talk about pushing lanes. Now, Nautilus, let's start with the top, because that's where the camera is. Nautilus will actually have a pretty good push over Gangplank, because he has the Riptides. He actually started with the W, also good for pushing waves. So naturally, early on, the Gangplank will get pushed under his tower. It won't be the freest lane, like Gangplank into Shen, for example, maybe even Gangplank into Maokai. But as he gets his Trinity Force, that's where MMD needs to start being a little bit scared. And we've seen Chachi, he had a great Game 1 performance on the Renekton. Now with Gangplank, let's see if he can have a little bit more of an impact. Mid lane, Maple will push early. This is an inevitability. It will happen. Now, the bottom lane is a little bit more interesting because you have Zyra versus Mouse. We saw this a lot early on in 7.1 and 7.2. Even after the nerfs, it has reoccurred, and this very much depends on who can get the early push, because Hylissang and Samix have already gained lane control, which means that they will have a slight advantage. But eventually, Malzahar combined with Varus, that pushing power is just a little bit too strong once they've got a few levels under their belt.
Yeah, for now, it looks mostly even, but the plane control that Hylissang laid down early, not going to amount to a whole lot. Samix doing his best to throw down a bit of damage to clear out the waves to keep up, but once again, Betty and Swordart taking control of the bottom lane, and this is just so good for the Flash Wolves. They have struggled to find a strong bottom lane for so long. NL never quite ready for those early game scenarios, but Betty, it's a different story, and he's looked very comfortable in these laning phases.
Well, we heard all of the praise that he got within his region, and it really is coming to fruition in his second international tournament. We didn't see a huge amount from him at IEM Oakland, but he's clearly worked very nicely with the team. He's been a great addition, and he's been a big part of the team's success, not only against Flash Wolves, but also in their game one against the Unicorns of Love. He's a very enjoyable and exciting AD carry to watch.
Have to see. Right now, the pressure is again in his favor. Pressure in favor in the mid lane. All three pushing lanes. And the man who's going to suffer the most is going to be Xerxes. Only allowed now to enter his own jungle. Can't really ever afford to look to counter jungle Karsa or to make aggressive moves on the map.
And we have to talk about Karsa as well, because he is playing this Graze into Ivern, considered a counter pick in the sense that both of them look to do the same thing, which is just hard farm in the early game and transition more into a mid to late game team fighter. The difference is that Xerxes is going to be there to provide utility, whereas Karsa is there to provide damage. So Xerxes relies on his laners being strong enough to have an impact in team fights, whereas Karsa is the team fight in is the damage in team fights.
Oh, Flash has to go out. We're watching him trade in the mid lane, however. But in the meantime, Xerxes got caught there in the Rift Herald pit. Samix gets down the 4th shot, but Betty with a beautiful sidestep on the captive audience. He is controlling this lane. 1v2ing the exchange there. Exile building a massive wave, though, looking to trade. Getting aggressive onto Maple, gets a dagger picked up, double exhaust burned out. Is going to tank a tower shot. That's bad news. But a bloodbath in the mid lane nonetheless. Chachi, cleanse up, flash out.
So now you're seeing the power of all these pushing lanes. Maple, he does force to use his exhaust in the mid, but that doesn't matter when you have such a dominant performance down bottom. Samix being forced so far back due to the pressure, but Xerxes, he wants to try and relieve some of this pressure.
Oh, but already the Flash Wolves bottom lane is backing off, and I mean, the single piece of good news going for Unicorns of Love is that the boot starts with Jhin. They have enough pots to sustain, to survive that pick. So things aren't lost out quite yet, but Varus gets a comfortable back timing. Actually, instead of backing, he's just going to stay in the bottom lane. Not quite enough, I suppose, to back off and get everything he needs.
A little bit surprising that he doesn't want to rush his Dirk, but fortunately for him, Swordart is able to go back. He wants to be able to pick up this wave, get himself level 4. He'll likely then wait with Swordart, who they'll push out one more wave, and then Swordart can look to roam. You can see that Graze is already in the bottom half of his jungle, which means that the duo of both Swordart and Karsa can look to roam up to the bottom half of UoL's jungle. They can get a bit of deep vision, get some control around the dragon, which will be a Cloud Drake to start things.
And this is interesting because this is something we saw from Flash Wolves, and it looked almost accidental when we saw the intentional giving over of solo XP to Betty and the explosive level 6 play that allows for it, but now it looks like they're doing it intentionally again, and the question is, are Unicorns of Love ready for this? Can they adapt if the Varus gets a surprise level 6 about 10, 20 seconds sooner than you expect it to be?
You would hope so. It definitely caught G2 off guard yesterday and was a big part as to why they fell behind. But at the same time, it will also enable Samix actually noticing he wasn't even able to pick up his Dirk. So Betty just going to come back with the tier, which means that he won't be at that much of a deficit. But you can see now Karsa hanging around the top side of the map. MMD doing a good job of constantly keeping Chachi under his tower, but regardless, Chachi's actually doing a great job of farming in the early game.
Yeah, solid to see. Of course, kind of concerning when we see this Graves go up top side to dodge a tower. On the one hand, he's got all that damage. On the other hand, he can body block just about all of his DPS with tower shots. Level 6 for MMD, though, could give them an opportunity to go for the aggressive gank. Chachi, rocking a bit of damage, gets knocked up, gets taken down. That's just too easy for Karsa. He's got the raw burst damage. Flash Wolves pick up first blood.
So unfortunate for Chachi. If he'd had his level 6, he might have been able to turn that around, but as you rightly said, it's just clean and easy. The ultimate comes out from MMD. Karsa, he's gonna guarantee the Q to land because you're stuck against the wall. That damage there's no way you're going to be able to dodge it, especially with your flash already down. So Chachi just caught the rough end of the stick there.
Yeah, depth charge sets him up. Carson knocks him down. Carson taking a lot of poke damage. This bottom lane is just so explosive. That Malzahar, once again, nerfed pretty heavily, but still have to respect the Void Link, still have to protect the poke that gets paired with it if you're ever slowed up and caught in the midst of it.
Now, the top lane is still fine for Chachi because he is playing the Gangplank. Yes, his spike will be delayed slightly, especially that he lost what was effectively an entire minion wave because he had already used his TP earlier. This could be another place for Castle to look to gank once again because he knows that there's pressure in the bottom. He knows that Maple will be fine mid. But this Katarina is the pick you always have to be careful of because at around level 6, no, she doesn't have the same sort of push priority as Syndra, but if Syndra misuses her cooldown, so if she uses the Q and the W, that is when the Katarina is going to look to dive in aggressively and force the Syndra back. And it only takes a couple of aggressive trades like we saw early on to chunk out the Syndra, and that's when the Katarina looks to roam around the map. And if you have a roaming assassin get one early kill, that's where things can really snowball in the favor of the Unicorn.
There's one cooldown. Exile sees a second. He's going to go in as expected. Just using the ult to trade back and forth. Iron comes in to shield up as well. Right now, Exile just pushing out the wave.
And this is what you need to do on Katarina. You have to track cooldowns very closely because those are the windows of opportunity that you look to punish. The fact that Maple now will be able to pick up his blue buff will help a lot in this matchup because then he can just prioritize on wave clear.
Yeah, the cooldown shrink, the mana bar no longer an issue. Could be bad, however, for Hylissang. They're backing off. Betty's still only level 5. Samix is the one who's level 6. Crit not going to connect. So Flash Wolves at a bit of an experience deficit here. Wave crashes into the tower, and for now they're comfortable. Chachi's going to go pick up a red buff. I think a lot of people underappreciate how obnoxious it is to play against Ivern and to have to deal with those extra buffs on the map.
But Cast is just like, oh, hey, there's a free refresh of my red buff in the top lane. Maybe I should look to roam around because there is zero vision control for the Unicorns in the top half of the map. And Cast is just making it his playground. He's going up there getting free farm whenever he sees an opportunity. And because he's constantly getting pushed under the tower by MMD, that makes it so easy to go for a dive over and over and over again.
Yeah, but here is Xerxes nonetheless. He will get spotted out on the ward. Don't think they're going to go for the dive now. We'll just pull back. Don't want to risk the 2v2. Daisy up and available. She may be weaker now, but still an absolute threat. Malzahar's coming up as well. Exile may have overstayed his welcome. Still going to try to get aggressive here, it looks like. Needs to find a way out. Flash to safety. Orb's going to connect. Leaps out. Nice play in the end, but there's Graves. Karza wants to make a kill for himself, and he finds it. Good movement coming in from the Flash Wolves.
Exile, he wants to try and set up for a roam down bottom. You can see he just wanted to get some vision in the bottom half of Flash Wolves' jungle, but the rotation from Sword Art came up through the river. That forced Exile to go through his lane, and Castle was already setting up for the collapse.
Sword Art caught between the plants, snared up. Curtain call comes in. Gangplank call comes down as well. It's a lot of damage, but flash to safety from Sword Art. Malzahar has all. Betty's already used his. A nice trade, though, in the favor of the Unicorns Love. Things looking better now that they've made it out of the early game. Have the Ivern here as well. The Flash Wolves are moving to respond.
This will allow the Unicorns to put some pressure down onto this tower. It would be risky to go for a dive, especially with Sword Art being level 6 and still hanging around. But at least they're able to regain some control over the Dragon area, which they'll likely concede once Carcer makes his way back to the bottom lane.
And Samix building a decent CS lead for himself as well. About 11 at this point, of course. When that wave crashes into the tower, Betty will be able to even up some of it. But at the end of the day, Samix really doing much better in lane this time around when he has the aggressive support to back him up. Katarina's coming down as well. In Game 1, it was Unicorns of Love who fell prey to the tower dive. Game 2 will be Flash Wolves on the back end of that play, receiving the attention.
Well, they have to be careful because the Unicorns do not have that Gangplank ultimate available, which means that the Gangplank will be forced to teleport. And when you consider the value of Gangplank this early on compared to the Nautilus, I would give the slight edge over to the immense CC and frontline that he can provide if they were happen to force a skirmish down in the bottom lane.
And CC's pretty good. Only one ability doesn't provide some form of CC on the Nautilus kit. An absurd character to deal with in those teamfight scenarios. And you can see MMD just focused on getting through the lane phase and continuing to pressure out this GP. Ninja Tabby, Chain Best, armor up, and survive the GP.
And it's fine, actually. It works very nicely against Katarina, too, because the cool thing about Katarina is that early on her passive and on her Shunpo, she actually has very high scaling on bonus attack damage. So she'll early itemize heavy AD, which means because of how great her base stats are, right? It scales better with AP as the game progresses, but going for early armor against Cat on a tank means that it's much more effective, right? You get that early benefit.
Will be good to see. Of course, top lane remains a relative stalemate. But Graves is on the way up, and he may be looking to change that. Chachi's knocked up, has to wake, uses the oranges, K, flash, makes it more okay. He makes it to safety.
But now Xerxes trying to make a cross-map play, moving towards the bottom half of the map. Look at all the vision control in the river for the Unicorns of Love. They want to try and return by taking down that tower, and the flash walls already being hyper proactive in the top lane, because this is the easiest lane for Caster to set up, and I just think he's such a smart player.
Oh, they're going in, though. Curtain call, Sword Art's all alone. He's going to get taken off. Betty, 4-shot goes in. That's a lot of damage. MMD on the way down, but Daisy is here. It's a battle of tanks. Exile goes over the wall. This might be the start off for him. Down comes the GP ult. This could be the turn. Betty's all alone. In goes Exile. He's going to get the double. This is good for Unicorns. And on the top side, Karsa has to back off.
This was the roam that we were talking about. Unicorns had to try and force a play down bottom side. Because Flash Wolves were able to take the top tower, they're successfully able to set it up. They punish the Flash Wolves for overstaying. And because of all the vision control they'd set up in the bottom half of the jungle, Exile was able to get a clean roam. But this is a good response from the Flash
And this
Wolves.
is the power that Graves. He's pushing down the towers so fast. So even with a single creep wave to back them up, Flash Wolves are going to break the mid as well. And despite all the efforts of the Unicorns, Flash Wolves still come out on top in gold.
Karsa is such a smart player. He knows exactly where to be on the map and where to regain any kind of deficit that the Flash Wolves team suffer. Being able to pick up that mid lane tower is so good into a Katarina because now she doesn't have that safety. But you can see that UoL, they just wanted to move aggressively, get some vision down, force the Flash Wolves off this tower. They tried to go too aggressively onto Xerxes and saw like he doesn't have his flash. So it's very easy for the Unicorns to get the collapse down. Exile had already started to get the roam down bottom. Way too late for Maple. He gets himself the initial reset, and by picking up that double kill, this is the big win condition now as Chachi.
Oh, top laner versus jungler, but it's a Graves. Barely enough health from the orange to walk away safely, but now Nautilus is free to push in. Vizichachi has no wave, or no health, sorry, but he has to stop this wave from pushing. Unicorns Love moving in below them, but it could be the collapse. It could be the 4v3 in favor of Flash Wolves. Exile's taking up home on a side lane. Hylissang is behind enemy lines. Oh, wow. Chachi goes in, though. That's not good. Depth charge drops. MMD, surprise kill on Chachi. I'm too busy watching if Hylissang makes it out safe, and it's Chachi who has to be scared.
So a few interesting things happened there. Hylissang was trying to get some vision around the river. He gets spotted moving into Flash Wolves jungle, but they don't choose to chase him. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Chachi had already taken a lot of damage from the gangplank earlier on. MMD spotted him as he goes into the bush, and he gets himself the solo kill. And now, while Chachi is looking to scale up, while he has completed that Trinity Force, the fact that MMD is level 11 and has already completed, or is on his way to completing his first major item, is going to be massive for the top side of the map of the Flash Wolves.
Oh, and this is... Flash Wolves are taking the next step. They're being proactive, Vedius. Graves is already on the bottom side. He's ready to break another tower. Syndra's there as well, and like you said, Vizichachi's only level 9. I don't think he can survive the raw damage output here.
The best he can hope to do now is throw out the Gangplank ultimate to just act as wave clear. He's fully aware that Karsa's in the bottom lane. And again, just praise for Karsa. He's always moving around the map and doing his best to exert pressure. We praised him yesterday for being great in terms of being an early jungler, but now you're seeing his ability to know how to play the map game as well as just getting kills for his team.
And Gangplank ult is simply not enough. Samix takes damage back from the tower. That means Unicorns of Love cannot trade towers. This Graves pick is just far too effective when it comes to burning down these structures. Attack speed boots coming out from Karsa as well. He hits hard and he hits fast.
So a lot of control over the map for the Flash Wolves right now. They were able to take a lot of towers thanks to the map movements from Karsa.
We got to look at top side though. The Cloud Dragon doesn't matter. It's the dive onto MMD that's more important. Spin, 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 says Exile. He's looking for the win himself. Now going to cut down the tower.
But look at the mid lane. Flash Wolves immediately responding. They have
And
their
the
duo
bot lane.
pushing. Maple is down bottom. He's even forcing Chachi back.
Chachi's
Here comes Karsa.
doomed. Unicorns will up have overstepped. They've committed too much to the top side. Chachi's trying to buy time. He's using the tower to body block the shots. I don't know if it's going to be enough. He gets cut down in the end. Karsa's on a killing spree. Flash Wolves now set to take yet another tower, looking to get something in the mid lane. They don't get the towers in the end, but they get another kill on the gangplank.
They get a lot of chip damage onto these structures, though, because Tier 2 at 16 minutes in the mid lane is now at about only 1/3 of its HP. And it's just because of how much investment UoL put into taking that top Tier 1. Yes, you get a kill down onto MMD, but the fact that Chachi is now 0 and 3, he is struggling a lot during the early game. And yes, Exile is fed, but Flash Wolves are just playing this map so beautifully.
The macro game has been clean and concise. Flash Wolves making the quick plays everywhere and responding so quickly in turn when Unicorns try to make one of their own. We talk a lot about the late game scaling. We talk about the gangplank and those big late game team fights, but how far can you really fall behind VoDs before that's not a factor anymore?
I mean, the Flash Wolves, they have a lot of pick potential with their composition. And the way in which they're playing around the map is just really good because it's not necessarily a 1-3-1, right? The thing you have to be careful of is if you move Syndra to a side lane, it's very easy for someone like a Gangplank and a Katarina to just lock that champion down.
Maple's waiting in the bush, though. He just wants to set up the one-shot on the ViziChachi.
I don't know if he can actually 1v1 the Gangplank. He's going to go for it.
Got a lot of damage. Picks it up.
No, he's just going to jog off.
Force of will. Not going to connect.
I'm out. Peace. Oh, here comes the collapse.
Yeah. That might be enough. So ViziChachi has to flash to safety. Scuttlecrack gives the movement speed steroid, but not enough to make a difference. It's just so close here.
But Flash Wolves are really the ones that are in control. And to just backtrack to what we were talking about earlier, Flash Wolves aren't just playing the standard 1-3-1 because they're putting Maple off into a side lane and then moving Karsa to whichever lane can get the most structure damage because of how great he is at taking down these towers. And that just means that every time UoL try to commit to an objective, Flash Wolves are always responding with an objective to net the positive gain and just stay ahead in terms of gold throughout this game so far.
And the gold, it's not a crazy lead for Flash Wolves, right? Only about 1K as we move into the 20-minute mark. But they've got vision control down across the map. They've taken so many structures for themselves. Unicorn still can't even drop the mid lane tower, and we saw they sent 4 members there. Varus just going to throw out 2 abilities, clear the wave, and suddenly all of those members' times isn't really worth much of anything.
I really like the draft from Flash Wolves. They're making it work very nicely for the time being. Exile is still the biggest concern. You do have double exhaust and a Malzahar to deal with Exile, but then there's always the possibility of that mid to late game Ivan.
That goes wide. Flash forward, aggressive engage from the Unicorns. Exile gonna try to make it in the fight, but just has to pull back. That's a big fumble on the engage. In comes MMD. Exile gets locked up, gets knocked out. Not dead yet, though. Fancy footwork coming in. I don't know if this is the fight that Flash Wolves wanted. Daisy's on the front lines looking for damage. Exile goes in. He gets exhausted. He gets taken down. Short was the life of Exile. Brief, brilliant, but nothing gonna happen in the end for that team. Flash Wolves take the fight in their favor.
That was a big mistake from Exile. He doesn't respect the double exhaust coming out from the Flash Wolves. He'd burnt his QSS far too early, and the Unicorns should have just disengaged from that flight. Flash Wolves now, knowing that they have the numbers advantage, knowing that there are so many low health members, are going to look to push onto this tier 2 in the mid.
Oh, there's still so much wave clear, though, with this Gangplank. He may not be good in the fights. He may not be strong enough to 1v1 anyone quite yet, but can still clear out the waves. Just a fumble on the engage there from Unicorns. They try to push the advantage anyway.
I also think that Betty was just slightly out of position. I mean, the whole fight setup looked pretty promising for the Flash. Oh, Hillistang.
Well, bye, Hillistang. It was grim, and he's gone.
Yep, effective weed killer from the Flash Wolves. But Exile, he's hunting for blood.
Looking for something. Betty's all alone. Gonna go forward. Gonna try to find one. Chachi's here as well. He burned TP to make it to this fight. But now
I don't think that was necessary.
I'm gonna say no, because now Flash Wolves are pushing on the top side, and they may be able to break yet another tower. Samix is in the mid lane, and he's all alone. Maple's now looking for the setup as well. This gonna take a look at this fight.
But you can see how Betty, he's just, the initial engagement from the Unicorns is promising, but it's at this point, you just kind of want to disengage. TP already gets used from MMD. A lot of ultimates get thrown down, and Unicorns just think, okay, that's enough. We've done enough damage, let's just back away. But he sees Betty getting locked up in Exile. He just gets too bloodthirsty. The immediate crowd control coming out from MMD combined with the exhaust, along with the flash being up for Betty, meant that it was so unlikely he was going to get a kill. They should have just been happy with what they got. But Exile, he just saw red. That was all.
Varus is in the bottom lane though, so the wave clear is gone, and this gives an opportunity for Unicorns of Love to move in, maybe to look for more. Maple locked up. Maple, is he gonna get taken down? Curtain call, Curtains for Maple. Sword Art's next. Exile wants to go in, but it's the Jhin who's gonna take the kills, and that's a good fight for Unicorns.
Very quick double kill for Unicorns. This was not what the Flash Wolves were expecting. They have no side lane pressure to be able to punish the Unicorns for this aggressive push in mid, and now as a 4-man unit, they may look to continue their push, or maybe just get some vision control back around the Baron.
Hoping maybe to even take this one. We're gonna have to see. Scuttlecrab though drops for Flash Wolves. That's gonna give them some comfort. That's gonna give them some safety, but Unicorns of Love, composition finally coming online. They've got the damage now. They've got the power to dive the tower and to take out these weaker members.
It's the risk that you run, you know, Varus and Malzahar, Syndra, they're actually all very low in mobility, so just a single CC like a Gangplank ultimate, just throwing down that slow, sets you very nicely up for Samix's ultimate to just rain hell down on your opponents, and then while you're getting chunked out, while you're trying to retreat, there's that bloodthirsty Katarina being like, I'm gonna get you.
I was like, oh, did you use 2 exhausts in that last fight? I might have noticed.
I was pretty tired, but now I feel rejuvenated. Let's go, friend.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've never felt so alive.
But the double kill did go down onto Samix, 4-0-1 right now, feeling pretty strong. Now the question is for the Unicorns of Love. Usually what you'd like to do is move Katarina into side lane, not to be that split push threat, but just keep the waves pushed out and to get as much solo experience onto her as possible. She really values levels because of how great her scaling and base stats are, especially at level 16, once she's gotten all those points into her ultimate, right? So you want to try and get as much farm and experience as you can, but the Unicorns have this tendency to just group as a 4-man unit. They always want Exile there in the event that a fight starts. And the problem is, you're now sharing that golden experience among the other members of your team, which really stymies the power of this Katarina.
Gangplank is here too, but does mean the Unicorns of Love have control of the Baron Pit area, Vedius.
Yeah.
They don't have a ton of vision. They're not denying anything from Flash Wolves quite yet, but they are placing vision of their own. And the gold is dead on this stage of the game. The only advantage for Flash Wolves is that Cloud Drake. As we move towards late game, now the Unicorns of Love have kind of made it through the storm, I'd say. Do they have the edge compositionally?
It's always going to be a difficult composition to execute when you have a Katarina Jhin, because you have no innate initiator. You kind of rely on the Katarina going in and then providing a lot of peel. And you can see here, when you're able to land the Gangplank ultimate into a Zarya ultimate, then it's easy pickings for the Katarina and the Jhin, right? But you're not always going to get this kind of a setup, because in that fight, there was no one less than that.
Exile's locked down. He already burned the QSS, but he wants to go in on the Betty. There's an exhaust onto him. Exile's out of cooldowns. He can't move in any further, but Betsy and Daisy moving into the front line. Not Betsy. Daisy moving forward. Oh, that's a nice little counter interaction. Now it's thrown out to safety. Exile's on the backside. He's going to leap in, looking to spin, makes it out, but MMD is going to grab the kill. Chachi now on the front line. Samix here as well, but Karsa does so much damage. Vision Chachi, no oranges. He's not going to make it all right. Now running out. Karsa on the front line. Can he do it? Just going to settle for the kill onto Daisy, but Unicorns walk away. 1 for 2. Stands against them. Flash Wolves up. Flash Wolves have advantage in their favor, and they're pushing down mid.
But Flash Wolves are able to turn a fight in their favor, and this is what we were talking about, Dracos, the advantage of having this tank on the front line. It is very different for a Katarina to engage onto 2 squishies when there is a Nautilus in your face. And MMT was a big facilitator and what made it so hard for the Unicorns to group up. And this could result in perhaps an inhibitor going down in favor of Flash.
They don't have any of their wave clear up and available. Tower drops, no inhibitor yet. They're backing off, but this is dangerous territory. Unicorns of Love, this is the risk they ran. Going for such, aggressive moves.
You can see the primary initiation is to try and lock down Sword Art. A lot of ultimates were used onto a single target, but Exile is now in a 1v2 which he can comfortably win. Good flash from Betty, buys time, but look at what MMD's doing on the backside. He's keeping 3 members of the Unicorn away from the Katarina, and now MMD is regrouping with his team. So the moment Exile comes in, you think, oh, maybe he can start to clean up this fight, but no, MMD's still zoning the rest of his team away, and then he starts the chase with Kars, who has more than enough damage to get the kill done onto Chachi, and with 2 of the primary carries of the Unicorns gone, this makes it very easy for Flash Wolves to gain control over the map.
Well, Unicorn's going to get a little bit of control over the pit, but now Flash Wolves are running towards the Baron. And that was a rough fight for the Unicorns overall. So now, once again, Flash Wolves have a gold lead for themselves. Spooky Ghost coming out. Betty just going to run out. MMD locked up. Decent damage going to come in from Samix. Out comes the ultimate as well. Daisy moving in. No Syndra to throw it out of the fight quite yet. But Karsa knocking it back. That's a lot of cooldowns burned for not much of anything here by the Unicorns of Love.
Did MMD even take damage? It looked like he was still full health. He is very tanky at this point in the game, working towards what I imagine will be the Iceborne Gauntlet to just help with his dueling power. But you're right, Unicorns, they try to force a pick. They're not quite able to get it.
Means they have to give up the Gangplank ult on the top side,
yes,
though.
Yes, it does.
Vedius,
Yes, mate.
why are the games so close?
Why? Because the Flash Wolves are really good at controlling the map. They're really good at moving around and forcing Unicorns into a position where they have to respond. And the Unicorns are really good at fighting. So even though they're on the back foot, they're doing a great job of finding fights. But maybe this will be a fight the Flash Wolves can be the setup.
Oh, pings are coming out. They know the Katarina is not here. Now using the last moments of Daisy's life to disengage. Exile potentially in trouble. Maple's dishing a ton of damage. Gets him low. Exile can't afford to push for any more. It forces him back. Unicorns of Love zoned away from their own base here. Oh, Baron's now in their sights. Flash Wolves are simply outmaneuvering the Unicorns of Love.
Look at all the vision control over the top side of the Unicorns jungle. Flash Wolves are making this Baron their primary objective. They already know that the dragon has been taken. Samek's even being forced to use his ultimate just to get some vision control around this objective. And it just shows you how much control the Flash Wolves have. Even if it's only a slight gold advantage, it's very reminiscent of what we saw in Game 1. Yes, Unicorns, you might be good team fighters. You might be better than the Flash Wolves at team fighting, but the Flash Wolves are always the ones that are in control. And we really are starting to see what I would argue the difference between an experienced jungler in Karsa versus the new rookie in Xerxes, who's still learning to have that sort of pressure and have that sort of control.
Moving across the map, though. Blue buff gets thrown in. Maple's going to grab that one, and now Flash Wolves have Baron in their sight. We've seen Xerxes steal before. There's no Poppy to stop him from getting in the pit, but Hylissang takes a ton of damage. Baron ticking lower. 2K going down, dropping quickly. When are they going to burst it? He gets locked up. He gets taken out of the pit. Flash over the wall from Sword Art to secure. Gray's going to grab it in the end. Exile's on the front line, and he's all alone. He's set to fall. Makes it out. Not enough. Betty takes it. Another kill on the backside. The collateral damage is huge. And Vizichachi now running for his life. Flash Wolves take everything from the Unicorns.
Such a great Baron setup from the Flash Wolves. There was no risk of it being a 50-50 because not only did the ultimate come out from MMD to lock up Xerxes, but they also had the Malzahar ultimate guaranteeing there was no way for Xerxes to get into the pit. Such clean execution, which they transitioned to such a solid team fight, will result in their first inhibitor of the game.
First inhibitor, they're going to break another one on the top side because MMD has TP'd in, and Flash Wolves may end the game one more time. I think that they're still going to give Unicorns of Love the respect here, however, but they have broken the base. It is wide open, and Unicorns of Love are going to need to make a massive play to make it out of this deficit.
Oh, the Unicorns, they were so well known within the European LCS for forcing enemy teams into their playstyle. They were the type of team that would say, look, we don't care if you're all about the macro game. We're going to force you into a mess. We're going to force you into fighting us, into skirmishes, into all over the map. And we saw bits of that in Game 1. But in Game 2, Flash Wolves, they've just said, no more. Unicorns, you've had your fun. We are now going to control the map through good vision, good early objective control, and we are just going to slowly bleed you out and punish you for being a hyper-aggressive team that tunnels on teamfight.
I mean, it's terrifying, too, for the Unicorns now because there's that window of opportunity. We've seen it before. When the exhausts are down, when Exile can kind of rain hell on the enemy team. No opportunity here because the Baron buff makes sure that they can't. Tower going to drop. Vizichachi trying to push forward, trying to clear these waves. Maybe Unicorns of Love can keep stalling it, keep pushing towards the late game. They already have an inhibitor down. I mean, I think the only thing going here for Unicorns of Love at this point is the fact that they have the wave clear to stop this.
But for how much longer, right? Like, because they already have super minions pushing down in the mid lane. They will be arriving soon. The top lane is an exposed inhibitor, which you can send MMD up to deal with, or you can keep him down in the bottom lane to just keep exerting pressure. The resources of the Unicorns of Love is going to be split, and it's going to be difficult for them. Katarina's not exactly renowned for her wave clear when she's forced underneath the turret. And Gangplank, yes, he has that potential, but 0-4, he has completed his 3 items. But just look at how tanky MMD is at this point.
Truly terrifying. They're still going to go for the fight anyway. They're not going to lock up Maple. Out comes the curtain call. Out comes the redemption as well. Unicorns trying to find that fight, trying to find something on their favor. Doesn't work out for them. Graves getting something on the bottom side, does break a tower. Exile gonna move forward. Has to respect Karsa though. Red buff giving him the true damage, giving him the slow. Flash Wolves breaking another inhibitor. They've got 2, they're looking to make it 3. Karsa just taking his time on this one. They're trying to find an engage onto Karsa, but have they overcommitted? Exhaust goes down, Exile, he's gonna wanna spin. He reset the cooldown on the dagger, looking for the outplay, but Karsa just keeps going. He doesn't care, there's 3 members here. Karsa's buying so much time, but meanwhile, what else is happening? He still gets a kill. He's looking to get another one. Karsa goes down in the end, but Exile, he's burning quickly. Arrow goes in. Flash Wolves have absolute control of the base. Unicorns, what are you doing? Exile not going to get stunned up. Maple's the one who's in trouble. Ult comes out. Exile wants to go in, but the exhausts are up in time. Exile, he's trying to get the resets. He's trying to make the hero play. He's low. He's not dead yet, though. Spin, spin, spin. He's trying to get something back. Grabs another kill, but Flash Wolves are on the base. I don't think they can do it. Unicorns of Love, they make the desperation play. The mechanics from Exile are beautiful, but it is not enough. Flash Wolves are going to break the base. Or are they going to back off? No. Exile. I don't know if he saved the day or doomed them, Vedius, but he found a way.
Exile is able to keep his team alive for the time being, but look at what the Unicorns have lost in exchange for getting those kills down in the bottom. They've lost all 3 inhibitors. They have an exposed Nexus. And the Flash Wolves, yes, okay, maybe they got a bit greedy. Maybe they committed a little bit too hard into trying to save their jungler when they could have just ended the game. But you have to wonder, can the Unicorns even come back from this? They are so far behind. A double exhaust is there to shut down the Katarina. It doesn't matter how fancy your feet are. If you're too tired to dance, what are you going to do?
We look at this perfect Baron setup. You talked about it before. The Malzahar, the Nautilus. Xerxes not going to be able to find a way into the pit.
Great flash from Solar to just guarantee that Circe can't come in. Exile, he tries to go aggressive because of the bonus magic damage that they're likely to take from the Baron Diva, but he just can't do it. He gets shut out of the fight very early on. Hylissang, he was already low prior to this. I just can't praise the Flash Wolves enough for not only having good vision control around the Baron, but for then guaranteeing it. There's no risk of the 50-50, right? So many times we've seen that possibility for the Unicorns to come back, and the Flash Wolves deny it.
And Unicorns wanted to be the team to force a fight, and they're going to have to force one now, because if they don't, the Nexus will drop. Karsa could be the man to take it alone if he's left unattended. Unicorns are going to need a clean sweep to survive here. Exile goes in.
Whoa!
Betty, that's a ton of damage, gets taken down. He goes golden, he's still up, he's still alive. No one goes in onto him. They get one for themselves. Can they get anything back? Vizichachi goes too deep. Karsa going to take him in the end. Exile locked up, but their attention is not on him. That's a shutdown onto Karsa. Unicorns of Love pulling back, trying to keep the base alive, fighting on home turf. Exile not locked up yet. Dodges the skill shots coming in. Exile, so much mobility. Curtain call. Will they find the win? MMD's in trouble. Where's that 4 shot? Doesn't need it. Exile wants the outplay. He spins, gets silenced, may get taken down here. Wants to keep going. No, Exile drops in the end. Maple takes him down. Flash Wolves are going to break the inhibitor, but Unicorns of Love for now are holding the base.
The best case scenario for Unicorns is if they can keep that inhibitor alive, but because Maple did not go down, there is still a threat of the Flash Wolves ending the game. Just look at all the super minions.
2 members down. Maple on the front line breaks the edge of night, breaks the veil that's keeping Samix safe. He could be in trouble. Exhaust goes in. It's not enough. It is. Sidestep makes it out. Hylissang grabs the kill. The Nexus getting lower. Sword Art auto attacking. Desperate. He wants to finish the game, but this is not your moment, Sword Art. He gets cut down. Unicorns of Love hold on.
Flash Wolves, you can't try to make this play against the Unicorns. They've been here before. They know what it's like to go against an open Nexus, and they're able to defend it. 2 members go down, but overall, Unicorns get themselves the ace, and they are still alive in this game.
This is absolute insanity. It is only the 35-minute mark. But Baron is up. Flash Wolves are going to get it, and this, I want to say, will be the death sentence for the Unicorns, but they've survived this far. Is this the final nail in the coffin? Can Unicorns of Love win one more fight to buy more time? There's no Elder Dragon available.
The key thing in that exchange was that both of the exhausts were unavailable for the Flash Wolves as Exile went in onto Betty. He still had all of his damage available. He was free to just shred through the AD carry. And look, he'd already set up the dagger right behind MMD. He made it so easy to go onto Betty, and great communication within the team in order to just get that chain CC to lock him down. Karsa does a great job on the backline, shutting down the gangplank, but crit from Samex is enough to turn the fight around. And you think at this point, it's still going to be Flash Wolves' game. But Exile does such a phenomenal job kiting back, avoiding all these skill shots to just guarantee consistent chip damage and poke damage down onto the tank.
We're going to have to cut that short, though, VoDs.
Because there's a Baron-empowered Flash Wolf looking to end the
Flash
game.
Wolves at the gate, knocking on the door of Unicorns. Exile, can he get in? Flash Wolves breaking down the inhibitors. It's slow and steady. Patiently waiting for the game to explode, VoDs. D locked up, where the cooldown's going to go. Exile stunned, that's not good. Does make it out. Depth charge goes in, that's a lot of members hit. Nice try for the disengage. Not a ton of damage quite yet. Varus locking up multiple members. In comes the redemption. Nexus exposed. Nexus is vulnerable. Baron creeps making it difficult. Curtain call. Exile goes in. Doesn't have the Zhonya's. Does get taken down. This is disastrous for Unicorns of Love. Flash Wolves are moving forward. Samex is holding on for dear life, but Karsa, he goes in. He cuts them down. He makes it look easy. He will not die. He's going to get another one. And Flash Wolves take 2-0 in the series.
It was close right at the end there, but the Flash Wolves are able to close out the game in convincing fashion. What a series between these two teams. The Unicorns of Love, they fought tooth and nail with the Flash Wolves, but overall it was better objective control, cleaner map play that was able to come out on top.
Flash Wolves secure themselves a spot in the semifinals, moving up alongside the Rocks Tigers. Just an absolutely insane game. I don't even know what to say. I mean, beautiful play coming in from the Flash Wolves. Unicorns had great moments, but at the end of the day, Flash Wolves outclassed them across the map, outmaneuvered them. And it was, in some ways, beautiful to watch, and as a European fan, a little heartbreaking.
Yep, this is looking bleak. A lot of the analysts coming in, me included, said that this would be a disappointment for Europe to not have a team in the finals. But when you look at the strength of the Flash Wolves, you look at the way in which Rocks Tigers have been stepping up in this tournament, and the way in which, I don't want to say the Unicorns underperformed there, because I don't think they did. Like, sure, they made a couple of mistakes here and there, but the Flash Wolves just straight up beat them. They just played the map better. They were the stronger team on the day, and the Unicorns are the second best team in Europe. Yes, they beat G2 in a best-of-1 yesterday, but if they are this strong against some of Europe's best, I fear for the rest of Europe.
I think we all have to be scared. They're not out yet. They have another chance. But Flash Wolves have moved up to the semifinals. Unicorns of Love could make it out, as we'll see on the games starting in Spodek. But for now, we're going to send it to a quick break. And when we get back, we'll have an interview, and the analyst desk will break down that series.